Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson Football at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. Is this Clemson offense for real? Final thoughts on App State. What will Clemson look like going forward? We're going to cover all of that and more in tonight's show. Thank you so much for being here. Hit that like button if you have not hit it already. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We are on the road to 6,000 subscribers, so if you could help us out with that, that would be greatly appreciated. And last but certainly not least, if you would like to support the channel through Super Chat, please do so. The Super Chat feature is available. Any and all contributions are greatly appreciated by myself and Jordan Bowman. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. Jordan, what's up, man? We're doing it bye-week style.
Let's go, man.
Only the third week of the college football season, and we're already doing it bye-week style.
Exactly. I mean, that's the crazy part because, last year it was kind of a, we had the bye week right. Was the bye week right before Notre Dame, our first bye week, or I'm trying to remember where the bye week fell last year. Maybe it wasn't Notre Dame. It was. Dang.
Hold on, I'll tell you. Give me 1 second. I will tell you.
I believe it was before Notre Dame, and so then that was what, October.
I think it was right before, the
early November. Yeah, that's what I think. So, I mean, this is kind of this is weird. We don't have a game to talk about, and I went into this. We kind of went into this season kind of expecting to have a game to talk about each week, and now we're just kind of here. But
it was before the Miami game, actually.
Oh, it was before the Miami game. Okay,
before the Miami game.
All right. I might be thinking of. I think we had a bye week before Notre Dame 2022. That's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yep.
But yeah, man, I'm just happy to be here. And obviously, new time slot, so we're all getting used to this. So we might not have our usual audience, everybody, but I just want to remind everybody that this is going to be the new time slot for the foreseeable future. So but we got a lot to talk about, man. This has been an interesting 2 weeks. To kind of take in and process during a bye week because we have like two opposite extremes. We're gonna get into it, but man, I'm just glad to be here talking about Clemson.
Yeah, man, it's a great week to be a Clemson Tiger. I can guarantee with certainty, 100% certainty, actually, we will not lose a football game this week. There's a 0% chance that happens. But no, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's crazy. We're only 3 weeks into the season and we got a bye week, but it's kind of a unique season in that everybody gets 2 bye weeks this year. We'll get into it a little bit later in the show, but I think it comes at a good time for Clemson. There's a couple key people on Clemson's roster that are kind of banged up right now. So certainly doesn't hurt that we have a bye week so those guys can kind of get right and make it off of the newly debuted Dabo day-to-day roster. That's what I'm going to affectionately refer to the injury report as, is the day-to-day roster, because everybody's day-to-day. And what does day-to-day mean? It just means they're not out for the season. That's the only thing day-to-day means. Excuse me. No, but it's a great week, man. I love bye weeks. Bye weeks are kind of unique, especially on the show. You get a chance to kind of look back at the previous game and then kind of review what you've seen so far this season. And this year it's a little different in the fact that we've only seen 2 games, but those 2 games could not have been any different if you drew it up. They are polar opposites of each other, and we're going to get into all of that stuff tonight and more. So we'll see where the show leads us. Shout out to the comment section. I'm gonna call out the comment section real quick. We got 27 people in the live chat. Please go ahead and get that likes up to as close to 27 as you possibly can. It really does help us out And all you got to do is click that like button, really quick and really easy. Consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do the All In Show every single week. This is our first show in the new time slot. As Jordan previously mentioned, we are now going 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. That is just to give some space in between our preview and predictions that we do on the live shows leading into every game and the time that the game plays. Because Friday nights there's just no time. So, that's kind of where we're at there. Make sure you guys are getting in the live chat, leaving your comments, and we will, as always, get to it at the end of the show. We got David in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. Jackson Johnson's in here, plugging in all the Voice of College Football information and things that we need him to do. Thank you so much for being a moderator, Jackson, and also showing up for every show. Same for John Sarin. Thank you for being a moderator and being one of the OGs around here. Appreciate it. Great Scott is in here. Tiger Tom, David Wood, Cape Klubnik Enthusiast, Buddy Jay's in here. Let's see who else we got. Tiggs is in here. I think that's everybody. All right, like I said, thank you so much for being in here. Really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you have not already. We really do appreciate every single one of you that show up in here and support us. I see somebody already saying, "Where's my hat?" I lost it. It's gone. I lost it.
You know, when we were backstage, I noticed it, and I meant to ask you, and then you asked me a different question, and then I completely forgot to ask. I was like, something wasn't right. Like when I joined,
it's right here. I completely forgot to put it on. So,
nice fake out.
Let's get back right. I apologize.
All right. You were throwing off my mojo, man. It was like,
now we can get into the show. I got my hat on. Jordan's got his hat on.
I mean, you got to show the audience your beautiful locks for a little bit, but we kind of have an aesthetic going on here.
Yeah, we do have an aesthetic. My bad. I didn't mean to throw off the vibe, the feng shui, if you will, of the show. It won't happen again. Jordan can write me up later and give it to Mark, and I'll get a smack on the hand for not wearing my Clemson hat. Thanks for the reminder, guys. I truly just forgot. I hopped on. I got on kind of late, and I was late getting my my banners hooked up. So it was sitting right here on my table that sits beside me. Well, anyways, guys, let's go ahead and get into the show, Jordan. We got a lot of topics to get into tonight, and of course, we want to spend some time in the comment section at the end of the show. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to talk about tonight, Jordan, is the injuries. The injuries for the Tigers. We're only 2 weeks into the season, and I wouldn't exactly say that the injuries are mounting for the Tigers, but there are some injuries to significant players. Not significant injuries to the significant players, but there are injuries to significant players. Except for one. We'll get into that. That's really unfortunate. Peter Woods, first and foremost, everybody saw the kind of cut block that kind of took him out of the game. He did end up staying on the sideline. He had a knee brace on. He was signing autographs after the game. Seems like he's going to be okay. Dabo said famously he's quote-unquote day-to-day, which we all know now. What does day-to-day mean? It just means he's not out for the season. That's all it means. Outside of that, we have no clue what day-to-day means. Tyler Brown, another guy that got hurt early on in that game, rolled his ankle early. I think Tyler Brown only had 5 snaps in the game. They pulled him out as more of a precautionary. That's what Dabo said. So he is day-to-day as well, which means he is not out for the season, thankfully. And then our 2 guys that unfortunately did suffer pretty serious injuries. Shout out to Caleb Nix. Tore his ACL and then played the rest of the game on special teams.
He tore it on the first play of special teams.
The first play of special teams, and then proceeded to play the entire game on special teams and was quoted as saying, "It felt weird."
Yeah, I bet.
So he's got a torn ACL. He's got to get surgery. He's out for the season. But shout out to him for completing the game and showing his toughness.
Guys to play in recent Clemson memory to play on a torn ACL. Deshaun Watson,
Yep.
and Caleb Nix.
That's right.
That's
right. That's good company.
That's good company.
And then Kobe McLeod, everybody saw him kind of go down. We knew if you were watching the game, if you were watching the broadcast, it didn't look good when it happened.
Yeah, no.
It looked even worse when the trainers were down there assessing his knee. It looked
Mhm.
very serious. And sure enough, he is out for the season with a knee injury, torn ACL. Got to get a knee surgery. So Kobe McLeod, that's a pretty big hit for the linebacker core. He was a guy that was going to play a big piece as a rotational piece for that linebacker core this year. So that's the one true big kind of gut punch for Clemson early in the season. It's going to mean a bigger role for guys like D. Creighton, Sammy Brown. Those kind of guys are going to have to step up and fill those shoes that Kobe McLeod left.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's big because I mean they made it clear like he was the guy they trusted coming off the bench in relief. That first guy off. So that is going to put more stress on guys like Sammy Brown, D. Creighton, Jamal Anderson. They're going to have to get up to speed because there's going to be a lot more. You're already testing your linebacker depth a little bit, which is something we talked about. We have we've said and talked about how we feel about this group, but obviously you don't want to get too far into your depth because like where you're pulling a guy like CJ Kuba Taylor or something like that, or Drew Woodaz, and ending their red shirt because you're struggling with linebacker depth. So that wouldn't be ideal. So it's going to be important for these guys to stay healthy, but it's even more important that they get up to speed because you can't have Barrett Carter and Wade Woodaz, as talented as they are, playing all the snaps for an entire season, and they don't get hurt. That's pretty wishful thinking. So especially with the the demanding nature of that position in particular. So it's a pretty significant loss for this group, and so we're gonna have to. I mean, it's going to be a good opportunity for the younger guys, but it also means that they're going to have to get up to speed because you can't have them come in and not know what they're doing when you need to give Barrett Carter and Wade Wood as a breather. So we're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We're
and hate it for Kobe too because
man,
this is his first real. He's been a guy they've talked about and they raved about in practice and in camp, and just kind of his instinctual nature. Like he's certainly not the biggest or most traitsy linebacker there is, but they've really lauded his instinctiveness, and that's about as important of a trait as any for the linebacker position. So and he was definitely one of the leaders, especially for the younger guys. So hate it for him that his season is over, but we'll get a chance to see some of the younger guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Good opportunity for the young guys to get in there and kind of make their mark on this season and see what they can do. Sammy Brown comes to mind. He's the guy that led the defense in tackles this past week. Had some bright spots, had some spots where obviously he's a freshman and he's making freshman mistakes and he needs to work on it. But again, you got to feel promising about what you saw from a guy like Sammy Brown. And then, you got other guys that are going to step up, D. Creighton and Jamal Anderson and all of those guys and see where the pecking order falls now that, Kobe McLeod is unfortunately out for the season with the knee injury. You hate it for a guy like that. It's never good. But you just hope that you have the proper depth behind him that can step up and fill the gap. The coaches were really high on Kobe McLeod coming into the season. So we'll see where it all shakes out. I think it's safe to say from an injury standpoint after 2 games, I know it's just 2 games, but Clemson's sitting in a pretty good spot. I think Peter Woods will be just fine. I think Tyler Brown will be just fine come the North Carolina State game. So I look for those guys to definitely be back, hopefully, and be big contributors in that game.
Yeah. With Peter Woods, I'm going to be interested because, I feel like Dabo was kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Like I could see a scenario where they don't, where they hold him. But that would make, that would definitely mean you need to get more out of the guys behind him in that edge group. So that means more from Cade Denhoff and Jaheim Lawson. Well, I would like to see more AJ Hoffler. Like I think he's a guy you just he's too good too talented not to get reps. And so if they decide to hold Peter, even if he's good, kind of like what they did with Marcus Tate,
right.
Marcus Tate was ready to go on Saturday against App State, but they held him because they felt good about Colin Sadler out there, and he had a much better game than he did against Georgia for sure, which is to be expected. But he was very much more prepared for the moment and not making like the kind of the young guy mistakes that he was making in the Georgia game. So
absolutely.
And to answer your question, David, Marcus is good now. They expect him to play.
Yeah. If you ask Dabo, he's probably still day to day though.
Yeah.
But he could have played in that game on Saturday. They just chose to hold him, and it was a good decision. They did not need Marcus Tate in that game. Good to give him another week, 2 weeks really, with the bye week, and get him really healed up and ready for the big stretch of the season. Zaire's still alive? I don't think so. He didn't record a single snap in the game, which is, in my opinion, really telling of what the coaching staff thinks of where he is. And I mean, if you don't get in a game like that, then when are you going to play? And I'm not speaking, don't get me wrong, I'm not speaking ill will of Zaire Patterson. I'm sure he's a great kid. But it's clear that the coaching staff, for whatever reason, does not believe that he's ready to go out there and play, because otherwise he would have at least gotten, 4 or 5 snaps in the game.
It could be that, or, we've had players be in the doghouse before, and Zaire is a player that has had, maturity questions in the past. I'm not speaking from any sort of knowledge there. But there's some, especially it was kind of interesting that he didn't see a snap in that game, and makes you wonder if there's something beyond his play going on, because Dabo talked about him a little bit coming out of fall camp and in spring and during fall camp, and that he was playing the best football of his career. So whatever that means, it is up to you as far as interpretation. But I thought he would at least get some snaps, being one of the older guys in the
Hey guys, I think we lost Jordan there for a bit. He seems frozen. Can you guys still hear me in the chat?
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good now. There you go.
Okay, that was weird because it was kind of delayed. So I was saying, Zaire is. And see, now I had a good flow going, and now I lost it. But Zaire is a guy that certainly has had his questions in the past, and it makes you wonder if there's something else going on there if he's not playing. But again, I'm not speaking from any sort of knowledge. I don't have any sort of insider knowledge about that whole situation. And maybe it's a situation where he's checked out. Could be that. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened. So
right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll certainly see as the season goes on, see if he gets any sort of playing time. Keep an eye on it for sure. All right, guys, catch Clemson live on your favorite audio podcasts. Our show, our long-form content, is now streaming on all the audio platforms where you listen to your podcast. So go check out Clemson Live, rate, review over there, and hopefully we'll see you over there as well. Thank you guys so much for the support. All right, Jordan, moving right along into our next topic, and that is we're going to put a bow on this App State game, right? It was a great game. It was fun to watch. As a Clemson fan, it was like being lost in the desert for 4 years, and suddenly you found that mirage, right? That oasis out there with the water and the palm trees, and all the stuff, the fruit and the coconuts and everything you could possibly want, right? A little oasis out in the desert, and that's what Clemson's offense essentially was for all Tiger fans on Saturday. But we have to turn the page. We have to put a bow on this game. But before we do that, before we put this game in the rearview mirror and kind of project forward about what Clemson's going to look like for the rest of the season, what all of this means. How do you marry up the game between Georgia and the App State game, right? Let's talk about and let's break down one more time what we saw in the game. I'm sure you've gone back and watched it. You've digested it a little bit more. It's not as fresh. It's not as raw. Some of the emotions have come down a bit. Maybe we were at 30,000 feet, and now we're back on the ground, right? We've landed. So thoughts on that offensive explosion, specifically in the first half, right? First 8 possessions, touchdown. Every single time we touched the ball, it was a touchdown in the first half. And then obviously we started rotating in the depth, and, the production obviously went down. So thoughts on the game. What do you think about that offensive explosion? Was it real? Was it real? Or are we still dreaming?
I'm laughing at the super chat that we just got. Oh man, I do want to. But before I get into my thoughts, I got to address it.
Oh God,
Kuzi, my man, he says, thank you for the $5. He says, "Hey Pookie, love you, JoJo Bear. Cade Heisman run incoming. G, yeah, I'm with you, brother. Good to see you." Oh man,
that's funny.
I don't even know how to process that, but thank you.
I think you should change your handle to JoJo Bear.
Yeah, I might just change my name to Jordan JoJo. What was it? Pookie
Jordan JoJo Bear Bowman.
Yeah, we're gonna have to roll with it. But seriously, Kuzi, thank you for the $5. That's my guy. Good to see you, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you for your support, man.
But no,
right, thoughts on the App State game. Offensive explosion, crazy day, something that I don't even think the most optimistic of Clemson fans expected. So now that we are, several days removed, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think the emotions have come down for sure. Not completely, because it's a lot of fun just going back and watching that. Yeah. Just kind of the euphoria you got, like it hasn't worn off completely. But I have gone back and watched the tape, and I do think that this game was pretty instructive as far as like the progress that Cade has made. I don't think he's putting 7 touchdowns in a half, every week moving forward. But I think what you did see was Cade is clearly in a much more comfortable place as far as reading the field. He's trusting his offensive line more than he did last year. He's playing within the structure of the offense. That has been the biggest bugaboo for Cade his entire career, is playing within the structure of the offense and being able to execute when he does play within the structure of the offense. That was great to see, because I mean, he had some really special moments and really awesome moments, but a lot of his production was just playing within the flow of the offense and executing and taking advantage of the easy stuff. And that was the thing that we had talked about a bunch, because once you can do the easy stuff, the big plays, they just present themselves to you. It's not like you have to force it. And that's what you saw. And it definitely helps when you have, playmakers that are helping you out and making those plays for you, right, which obviously has been the problem in the past. So I think this offense has certainly turned a corner of some sorts. I don't think that means that they're like 2019 LSU and they're about to put up 60 every week, like I said. But I do feel like that this was instructive, that this offense can and will have, more ups than they will have downs. And that's certain. We'll take that, with the talent that you have defensively and kind of the quality of your remaining schedule. You have to feel really good that this group can be one of the better offenses in the ACC, and we'll go from there. And so, and again, App State is not a scrub football team. It's not like we were playing Charleston Southern. And listen, right, we saw how they played against Charleston Southern last year.
Not like that.
And they put up a ton of points in that game, but we did not come out of that game feeling all warm and fuzzy about the offense and Cade. This is certainly different. This was the Garrett Riley experience. This was the Cade Klubnik experience that we thought we were getting last year.
Yeah. You make a lot of great points, and this is what we expected, right? This is what we thought eventually could happen when we hired Garrett Riley last year, right? In the first year in the system, we thought we would see something closer to this. And you can, I know there's a lot of people out there and they're saying that, hey, pump the brakes. It's App State. Yes, it is App State. Absolutely. Fully understanding that it's a group of 5 team. Clemson still went out there and scored a touchdown every time they touched the ball in the first half. And I don't care who you're playing, regardless of the opponent. That is an exceptional execution day on offense. And that's what Cade and the offense did, right? Cade's numbers real quickly, 92.3% passing, 24 of 26, right? 378 yards, 5 touchdowns passing, right? Just in the first half, right? He ran for another 2 touchdowns for a total of 7 touchdowns that he was responsible for in that first half, right? So that kind of offensive explosion is special, right? And regardless of opponent, you have to recognize that, okay, we have now seen it from Clemson. We've finally seen it from the Tigers. We've seen that they are capable of producing explosive plays. We haven't seen – I swear we ain't seen an explosive play in like 3 seasons. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 here or there, but it feels like we have legitimately not seen an explosive play in like 3 seasons. And Saturday, we saw like 10 of them, right? I think he was perfect on throwing passes like the middle to intermediate passes. So the explosiveness is there. The athletes are there. The receivers, I think, showed on Saturday what we thought in the offseason, that this wide receiver group could truly turn into a special group, right? And by season's end, all the people saying that no one knows a single receiver on Clemson's roster, nobody can name them, that would change. That's what we thought was possible heading into the season. And it seems now that that is something that can definitely happen, right? Cade deservingly so, Walter Camp Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week, and Davey O'Brien, National QB of the Week, ACC Player of the Week as well. So shout out to him for getting those awards. But it was super fun to watch that offensive explosion. And if you go back and see it, the protection was great. The protection was great. So shout out to the offensive, clean pockets, Cade not getting happy feet, not bouncing around, not bailing out of the pocket before he even feels pressure, right? Stepping up in the pocket a lot of times and delivering throws, and most of the time and on target. So I think it was refreshing as a Clemson fan to see. Now, you're not going to expect to get that sort of performance week in and week out. But now you know that Clemson is capable of the explosive play. Phil Maffa has a gear that nobody knew he had, running away from freaking DBs at 230 pounds as a running back. That's crazy. I didn't know he could run that fast. And I don't even know how fast he ran, but I'm sure the analytics know. They were in the catapult system. I'm sure they know exactly how fast he was running. So shout out just to the overall offensive performance, specifically in the first half. I think the defense played pretty well for the most part. They started subbing like at the end of the first quarter on defense, like massive subbing.
Yep.
So shout out to the defense as well. I think the depth got a lot of reps out there, and I think that'll pay dividends going forward. Young pieces got to see a lot of real-time game experience. And clearly you can see, unfortunately, pointing to the injury of Clobie McLeod, right? Just that quickly, you lose a big piece, right? So that time where those young kids get to get out there for a half or more, 3/4 basically, and play football. That's huge. And that's something Clemson hasn't been able to do for a long time. But that was like a signature of Clemson through their big run, was emptying the bench, getting these people, getting these depth pieces, getting these young players real game time experience. And it always paid dividends because Clemson always had quality depth behind their starters.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, it was just cool to see. Like, we have not been able to say like, oh man, it's nice to not have to not have to sweat. Like, and usually we're talking about that like in the late second, second quarter, maybe at the earliest. So
Right.
okay, the game is in hand. We can put guys in. Like, the game was over after the first, like, I guess essentially over after the first 10 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
And that might be conservative given like just what they weren't really doing anything offensively against the first team. And so like, man, like I was so it was a nostalgic feeling, like a familiar feeling, but it was like, man, I haven't felt this in a while. So that was cool. And yeah, I mean, I think you saw a lot of young guys flash at different points and in different ways offensively. Obviously, we can talk about the receivers, Wesco, Moore, Jake Brenning still at tight end, all had nice days. And then you had the two receivers who got the brunt of Clemson fans' ire last week. They in Adam Randall and Cole Turner. I thought they made some nice catches as well, especially Cole Turner. That throw in this that catch in the second half from Vizina, who we'll talk about. Like, that was, I mean, it was a great ball by Vizina, but it just an athletic play by Cole Turner to just go up and get it.
Yeah.
And then we've seen him do that before, so it wasn't a surprise. It's just like, man, like, can we get more of that and more consistently? And so, and they did a lot of different things to get guys the ball. That was the one thing that I had been, after the Georgia game, I was so frustrated with, was like, man, it just seems like we're not doing really anything to get our playmakers the ball.
Right.
And
there was a lack of creativity. I mean, you watch the Georgia game, you're like, what is this, dude? Like, there's no creativity whatsoever. Like, there was almost no trying to just scheme and get your playmakers in space with the ball.
Right. Like, it was like the most creative thing we could think of was a screen. Like,
not very creative.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing Georgia. Have you seen their linebackers? A screen's not going to work.
Yeah. And so that was refreshing to see. I mean, you saw a lot more motions, and especially, I mean, that's something I've been talking about, and I don't know why we saw so little of it. Well, it wasn't even that we saw little of it in against Georgia. It was like they just didn't build on it, on any of the motions that they did, and they didn't do anything, creative to get, like I said, to get their playmakers the ball. They did that this time, and they did different things. I love that reverse play to Cole Turner. That was like, I was like, man, oh wow, that instead of having him run a go ball, I mean, you say he's the fastest guy on the team. Well, get him out in space on just a simple on a reverse, and all of a sudden,
I think you even
got a first down.
I think you even mentioned that in the preview, like when we were previewing the App State game. You said something to that effect. I remember you saying something about getting him the ball on a reverse or something and using his speed that way.
Exactly. Because he's not a refined receiver. I mean, that's clear at this point. I mean, maybe he'll get there, but he's not like a prolific route runner or anything like that. He's just a really, really athletic piece out there. And so, like, getting him the ball, and especially in spots, like, again, I want the younger guys to play more, but I think you like a guy like Cole Turner has utility in this offense, and that's what we talked about before the season.
Yeah, look, it was super exciting to watch this offense, and I think it shows the potential that this offense has going forward for the season. Again, yes, I understand we were playing App State, and the competition is certainly going up after this, even in the ACC. However, when you can execute to the level that Clemson executed in that first half, that was a really good offensive performance, regardless of who you're playing. And I don't think that can be overstated. Just that you know how many times me and you have talked about, I just want it to look easy. I just want it to look smooth, like get in a rhythm and go out there and execute, right? That's what Saturday was. That looked easy. Everything looked easy for Clemson's offense. And I think the biggest thing, and Dabo kind of mentioned it, was momentum, right? I mean, football is truly a game of momentum. And hitting that big pass to Wesco and scoring that touchdown on the third play of the game, it was over after that. Cade was feeling himself. The receivers were feeling themselves. The defense was feeding off of it. The O-line was protecting their tails off, right? Everybody was feeling it. The stadium was going absolutely nuts. Every recruit that was in there said that stadium was outside of their mind the entire game. Dabo even commented on it in the post-game press conference of how impressive that atmosphere was for a home opener in the Valley night game. Yeah, those are typically raucous and loud, but you are playing a group of 5, right? But the fans showed up, showed out, and it was an amazing atmosphere and really exciting to watch, right? But it truly is a game of momentum. And I think, what if Cade misses on that first play, right? Does that offensive explosion happen? You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it could be understated of hitting that first big play and the effect that that had on the rest of the game. You go back to that Georgia game, right? What if he'd have made that first pass to Phil Maffa and it would have went for 15, 20 yards? Would that game have went any different? Maybe not. But again, it's a game of momentum. And I'm not saying we would have had any more success against Georgia. They're an amazing defense. But it's possible you would have had a little bit more success because it would have just felt different, right? If you would have came out play one against Georgia and hit a 15, 20-yard swing pass to Phil Maffa, that game would have felt different initially. Instead, as a Clemson fan watching it on TV, he throws it at his knees and it's an incompletion. You're like, here we go. Here's the Clemson offense we know and love. So I just think that's an interesting conversation to have between the two games, and we'll do that in a minute. But how'd you feel about the defense? We've talked a lot about the offensive explosion, and rightfully so. We haven't seen it in forever, and it's clearly something that Clemson fans love to talk about. You love to go back and watch the highlights. But I think I want to shift gears to the defense. What did you think of the defense in this game? How did you feel about – obviously the first team had a lot of success in that first quarter, and then we started subbing, and you saw a lot of the depth. So what'd you think about that first team defense initially? And then after that, what'd you think about the depth going forward pretty much for 3 straight quarters against that App State offense?
Yeah, I think obviously the first quarter you got stops on every drive. I mean, the first team defense, I thought they played well. I mean, gave up a couple of third down and longs, which is kind of a continuation of a trend from the Georgia game. Didn't love that, but Joey Aguilar's a talented quarterback. They have some good receivers. So, I expected them to make some plays. So, they had some, it was not a perfect first quarter, but you got stops, and that they didn't really build much momentum. They didn't get more than one first down on any of their first half drives or first quarter drives. I mean, and so I was pleased with that. Second quarter, there was some sloppiness, and then when you started subbing guys in, which was to be expected, but wasn't anything. I didn't see anything that I was like, oh man, like that's not fixable. I think it was just a lot of youth. You played some guys that certainly weren't ready. Dabo talked about it. He said, when you're in a game like that, you got a lot of guys that want to go out there and play, and some of them aren't really as ready as they think they are. And so some of them got exposed.
There you go.
And I think you saw that in the second quarter, especially. But I thought they sort of bowed up and cleaned it up in the second half. They only allowed 7 points in that second half, so that was good to see. But yeah, I really think it was what it was. Wasn't a banner day for the defense by any means, but I thought they played well enough. And I thought you saw the young guys just getting experience and kind of taking their lumps, which we've done we used to be during the playoff years was something that was a regular thing. And that was why, you were able to build that depth, and why you came out so prepared. And, the next year when, those older guys and those starters leave, you have guys that have played some ball and are just ahead of the curve, compared to other teams. So, I mean, that was a good thing to get experience. And you definitely saw some guys flash defensively. Thought the best players on the day. Stephon Green was great when he came in. Sherrod Koval, especially on the rewatch, he really stood out to me. I was like, man, he's a guy we talked about all offseason in that safety room, that we were just, man, this feels like this is the year for him to really, emerge, because he was going to be a bigger part of the offense. Not the offense, the defense last year. Then he tears his ACL, or he gets hurt. And so, like, I thought he was pretty phenomenal. Saw some of the young guys, the freshmen. Sammy Brown led the team in tackles. Obviously, you saw the talent. He's going to be a really good one for you. And who else? Ricardo Jones getting a pick. Good to see, especially in that red zone opportunity. I pointed it out when it happened, but like when they showed Dabo on the broadcast, he said, like, you could read his lips. He was like, we need a turnover right here, boys, and they got it.
They got it.
Yeah, Ricardo is going to be a really good player.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to be a really good player for you. I thought it was just a good opportunity to see some of those young guys. Some of them didn't look so great, but it wasn't really that shocking. Ronan Hannafin got a lot of burn and I talked about a little bit at safety. He was flying downhill. He was trying to play it. He was really aggressive, but he just wasn't always in the right spot. That's to be expected. He's learning a new position. He played linebacker in high school and not defensive back. So this is kind of a newer thing for him. So he's kind of seeing how he grows into that role, because I think it's trending like that's going to be a more permanent move, and he's going to that's kind of where his long-term projection is. We'll just get to see him grow, and I think that's good for him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be super fun to watch him grow into that position. I think it's going to work out really well for him in the future. Obviously, he's got the drive. You could see it on Saturday, even though he was out of position a few times. But, I second pretty much everything you said. It was exciting to see all of those young players go out there. Mistakes were made. There was missed tackles. There was people out of position. App State made plays that they shouldn't have made. But again, that's how you grow quality depth. That's how you grow a roster that is going to be able to withstand the ups and downs of the seasons in major college football. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be guys banged up from week to week. On any given week, you're going to have to ask that depth piece to play starter snaps, and they're going to have to be ready, right? And these are the type of games where you put them in there and you let them get that burn, right? You let them get those mistakes on tape, because to your point, right, a lot of those dudes do think they're a little bit more ready than they actually are. And then they go out there and play, and then the coach goes on and turns the tape on in the meeting room and is like, hey, what's this? Right? And then they realize, like, oh, I do have a lot of work to do, right? So, and then the guys made it the good stuff will take that and they'll run with it, and it'll drive them, and they'll just get better. And I think it was really good for the defense. I was thinking it was really good for the offense to see Vizina out there, to see him finally in a game, type experience. So these young guys got a lot of burn, and it was really good to see. It's something that Clemson hasn't been able to do in a long time, and it's much needed. You have to be able to develop that depth, and games like this are very important and go a long way in doing that.
Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting. Obviously you have to build on it, and that's kind of it's the first time in a while, from the Clemson fan experience, we're like, man, I really can't wait to see this team play again. And I hate that we have a bye week.
Yeah.
But
that's how a lot of people feel right now. But it seems like this team's made of the right stuff. Seems like this team's got really quality leadership, player-led leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long way in maintaining momentum throughout a season and never getting too high, never getting too low, right? That kind of stuff is, coaches go in there and give their speeches and they kind of set the tone. But when you have that player-led leadership, that goes a long way in a team. So we'll see how it goes going forward. Keep in mind, guys, the voice of college football, Mark Rogers himself, has the college football show every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Excuse me. Good Lord. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go check it out on the main channel. Again, the college football show with Mark Rogers, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go hang out with Mark, talk college football, your favorite team, and everything happening in and around college football every single day, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go check it out. Appreciate you guys. Also, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do the All In Show right here every Wednesday, new time slot, 8 p.m. We also do a post-game live video immediately following every single Clemson game. And we also post segments of our live shows throughout the week so that you guys always have content to consume on the channel. Thank you so much for your support. We got 53 people in the live chat. If you guys could get those likes as close to 53 as you possibly can, it would be greatly appreciated. And as always, we have the super chat feature available. And Jordan, before we move on, I think we got a super chat while we were doing that last segment. So let's go ahead and take care of that before we move into our next segment.
Yeah, absolutely. David Lowry hit us with a $5 super chat. He didn't leave a message, so that's fine. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate the support, man. That's awesome, man. All right, Jordan, now that we have turned the page, we've given our final thoughts on App State, the offensive explosion, all the young pieces that got work. We have to now kind of ask ourselves a question. Which Clemson team are we going to get? Which version of Clemson is true? We're going to do a rear-facing segment about the two games that we just watched as Clemson fans in the 2024 season, right? And to me, it's a tale of two games. You got the Georgia game where things didn't go right. You didn't execute early, and the game just got away from you in the second half. Georgia's offense prevailed. They beat your defense down. The offense for Clemson never really got anything going. You turn to the App State game, right? The exact opposite happened. The offense exploded, hitting big play after big play after big play. And before 10 minutes were gone in the game, it was over, right? So they really couldn't be any different games than the two games we've seen the Clemson Tigers play so far this season. So the question is, how do we make sense of those two games, and which version of Clemson is the real Clemson? How do we interpret what we've seen so far this season from our Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the ultimate question. I definitely think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. I don't think they're as good as they showed on Saturday. Of course, they're not going to look like that every week. I don't think they're and I also don't think they're as bad as they looked against Georgia. As good, Georgia makes a lot of teams look bad. So that's just kind of the reality of playing the number one team in the country. But you definitely felt like you left a lot on the table there, and you just, once you couldn't get things going early, it kind of spiraled from there. And you just feel like if you had done some things differently and some of the basic, football 101 stuff was executed, maybe, things look a little bit different, and you don't come away feeling as just disappointed with the outcome, even if you still lose. And so I think definitely the answer is somewhere in the middle. I'm going to lean towards what we saw on Saturday, because obviously I think from a personnel standpoint and just an offensive philosophy and mentality, it was a lot different. I think you gained a lot of confidence, coming out of this game. I think these are the types of games that you use to build momentum, and with a young team with a lot of really talented weapons, and a talented offense and talented quarterback, talented offensive line, and you have to build that. You have to build that confidence, and Georgia was just kind of that matchup was. You liked the pieces, but you didn't really know how well they were going to mesh, game one. And they clearly didn't mesh game one. And you didn't necessarily play your best players in that game either, which I think is also a massive part of that. I do think that certainly played a role. So I think the reality is it's kind of incomplete for this team right now. But I definitely, lean towards what we saw on Saturday is what we'll see from this team, more often than not going forward. Does that mean they're going to be like a top 5 offense? I'm not going to go that far yet. I think Cade has made a lot of strides, but it's going to take a lot of you're going to have to see that consistently week to week before I hop onto that train. But I also think I don't expect many 250-yard outings from this offense this year, and 100-yard passing games from Cade that you saw at times last year, against Wake Forest and South Carolina and Notre Dame. I think you've found enough consistency offensively, and you found enough explosiveness from a playmaking standpoint, where I don't think that's going to be something that's going to happen very much this year, if at all.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it truly is a tale of two games. And, you kind of leave yourself, I did at least this week, leading up to our show, how do you decipher these two games? UGA that good? App State, are they that bad? Right? How much has the offense truly improved? Right? Which version of the offense is real? Can Clemson continue to be this explosive? Right? You ask yourself all these questions, and I think, as most of it's like an eye roll thing to say, it truly is somewhere in the middle, right? The truth with this team, the truth with this offense lies somewhere in the middle of those two games, right? I don't think Clemson's nearly as bad as they looked offensively and defensively in that second half as they looked against Georgia. I don't believe that's Clemson, right? You're also not going to go 8 for 8 on possessions and touchdowns, probably ever again this season, right? Or maybe again, right? That's a super special outing, right? So you have to take both of these games and really try to figure out what Clemson is. And I think you mentioned one thing that's a key for me, right? The personnel was completely different in how it was handled early in this game against App State versus the game against Georgia, right? Our young, talented receivers got a lot of burn early in this game, right? The play calling was different, right? The explosive plays were called early and often in this game. Against Georgia, we only took 6 shots the entire game. 3 in the first half, 3 in the second half. None of them hit outside of that one to Antonio Williams over on the sideline, right? That was the only explosive play that hit, right? So, it felt different. The scheming felt different. The play calling felt different. The confidence of the team felt different. And it goes back to what I was saying before about momentum and confidence. I truly do think hitting that big explosive play early completely changed the game for Clemson. I don't think the offensive outing would have been nearly what it was without hitting that explosive play to Bryant Wesco on the third play of the game for a 75-yard touchdown pass. without that play, that offensive explosion, it's not that we wouldn't have had an offensive explosion, I don't think, but it wouldn't have nearly looked like it did, in my opinion.
I'm
right?
kind of with you because especially when you consider, I do think like that shook, like that big play kind of shook App State. Like you could tell, like when especially going back on the rewatch, they were a step slow on basically everything. Now that App State defense, that defensive secondary in particular, they had a lot of transfers and guys that were new to the program. So take that is something to be considered here, and why, like, as much as I think like this offense has turned a corner, it's like, I don't expect this to. I don't think we're all of a sudden an elite offense now. They're clearly still probably probably still have more growth to go, and they'll probably have some more lumps that they'll have to take throughout the year. Hopefully, that just doesn't result in losses. And so, I'm with you. I think that first play, that first big play, kind of it changed how they called the game defensively, App State, and kind of how their players responded, because they were just kind of a step slow on a lot of different on a lot of plays, which is what you want. They respected this the first time in a long time that a team respected your deep passing game. And when a team respects your deep passing game, it opens up everything underneath and makes it so much easier to run your regular offense. So like, I mean, it kind of they both kind of feed into each other. So I thought that was good, So I don't think you'll play another secondary that has as rough of a day as App State did for sure. But I do think that you've put that on tape now, and you have explosiveness. You have explosive playmakers. You've shown that you have explosive playmakers in your offense. That's going to change how defensive coordinators and the defenses you face kind of play you. So
it has to change it. You have to somewhat respect it now, because to your point, it is on tape, right? So, I think much like you, it's somewhere in the middle for this Clemson team. What does that mean? I think it's closer to the version that you saw against App State. And the reason that I say that is I think this App State game will go a long way in confidence for this Clemson offense. They needed this. That Clemson offense needed this type of game in the worst way possible, because they just haven't seen it. And you go back to Dabo talking, and I know we've been duped before, and we thought, and maybe it still proves true that we were duped again coming into this season, right? But according to Dabo, right, this offense hit the most explosive plays against our defense in fall camp since 2019. So what does that say? Bad defense, good offense, somewhere in the middle? Clearly, this is an explosive offense, or an offense that has the ability to be explosive under the right circumstances. You could say that for certain as of right now. Now we'll see where we're at going forward, right? Roll into NC State after this bye week, and it keeps rolling after that, right? NC State, Florida State, so on and so forth. The schedule keeps rolling, right? But, I think the offense finally had a coming out game, and it's going to pay dividends for every player's confidence on that offense. And it's going to pay dividends for our defense having confidence in that offense, and maybe going out there and playing with a little more effort, playing a little bit more free, right? Playing a little bit more nasty out there on defense, knowing that offense is on the other side, and let's go get this ball so they can go score again, right? So that's kind of where I land on the tale of two games, and kind of trying to decipher and kind of put these two games together into one and be like, where are we at?
I'm with you, and that's just going to be the kind of how we play it, because again, you can't draw overarching conclusions after two games, and especially with Clemson and the two polar opposite results that you could have gotten through two games. you don't know kind of exactly where they fall, and we'll know more after this bye week, and against a Power 5, a Power 4 opponent that's not the number one team in the country. We'll probably get the more of the median expectation for this team, even though I don't know, maybe with how NC State has looked through 2 weeks, maybe they might not be that much better than App State.
It's looked rough.
If they are at all. Yeah, they've been rough.
It could, the season, I mean, it could have started worse for them. They could have lost that first game. But it's seemingly the season has started in the worst way possible for NC State, which I know makes you super sad.
Yeah, I'm devastated. Although it was kind of like, for me, like watching that Tennessee game, I was like, well, I don't really care for the Vols either. Well, at least their fans. But ultimately, it was fun to see them, because NC State. And I'm not going to make this an NC. We'll talk all about NC State next week.
Yes, we
when
will.
that game rolls around. But big game for sure. And you hopefully you're coming into this with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, because they've beaten you 2 out of the last 3 years. I mean, say what you want. That's not normal around here. Clemson has historically dominated NC State, and so that's anytime you lose to them, it's not fun.
Yeah, we got to rectify that in a quick, fast, and in a hurry this year. So, all right, guys, 46 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button while you're in here. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And we will be back right after a word from our sponsor.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
All right, guys, go check out Mark Rogers and all of his betting knowledge there, and go make you some money watching these college football games. Make some games that you maybe don't care about a little bit more interesting, and have a reason to watch them with a few little small wagers. Of course, always bet responsibly. Don't use your rent money. Don't use your grocery money or anything like that. If you can't afford to lose money, don't bet it on college football. But definitely go check out Mark Rogers. There's a ton of value there, and I guarantee it'll work out in your favor at least a time or two.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we're going to get into our next segment of the night. And Jordan, I dubbed this segment Clemson After 2 Weeks. And what I want to do here is do a little bit forward-facing for the Clemson Tigers. We've talked about, we've given our final thoughts on the App State game. We've talked about kind of how do we decipher the Georgia game versus the App State game? What is the real Clemson, right? Now we're going to do a little bit of forward-facing instead of rear-facing, and we're going to give our thoughts on what does Clemson look like the rest of the season, right? What can we expect from this version of Clemson football, the 2024 version going forward, right? How's it going to look? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing is, I mean, since we kind of decided, okay, well, the first two games, were what they were. Neither are completely representative of what this team is. And so, but I think the first thing is kind of reevaluating, the rest of your schedule. You've certainly had some teams, I think really more teams kind of falter as far as your perception of them than, raise your perception of them, at least the teams that are on your remaining schedule. And I think, like, when you look at the ACC and the landscape of the ACC and the teams that you have coming up, obviously NC State, a team that we kind of thought was potentially an ACC contender. They have not looked like that, or through two games, and they certainly have had their struggles offensively, especially, but even defensively, I believe they've taken a big step back. And it's not just because Tennessee had a great day against them, but Western Carolina was moving the ball pretty consistently as well, and they just have not looked like themselves defensively. Like you've come to know NC State under Tony Gibson as defensive coordinator. They're going to run that 3-3-5. But they're going to be physical. They're going to show a lot of different looks. They're going to do a lot to confuse the quarterback. They're going to have really good linebacker play, good corners. You just haven't really seen that. And, losing a freak athlete like Peyton Wilson and some of the other ancillary pieces that they had last year, I think it was certainly a big deal. So NC State, obviously, definitely a game that doesn't look as daunting right now as it did, coming into the year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Florida State has taken the biggest drop in perception, starting 0-2 and not looking really impressive. And neither one of them were flukes. They got flat out outplayed in both games. Clearly, they were clearly the inferior team. Like it wasn't like, oh man, a kickoff return happened or they turned the ball over a couple of times. Like no, Georgia Tech moved the ball up and down on them, pushed them around on the lines of scrimmage. Boston College did the very same thing. And I mean, Memphis might be able to too this weekend. We'll see.
Right.
And so that game doesn't look as daunting. Stanford has certainly had their struggles. I mean, that wasn't a game I was, super worried about, especially with them coming to the Valley, coming in. But they haven't done anything to change my mind there. Who else? I think Louisville has raised their stock a good bit. I think they've looked really impressive through 2 weeks, although, they haven't really played a significant Power 4 opponent yet. They've looked good and they've taken care of business in both games. And I had some questions about them, with how much they lost from last year, and all how the transfers they brought in, Tyler Shuck at quarterback, with Jeff Brom kind of have another squad this year, but it appears, at least on paper, that he does. But yeah, I just think the schedule overall looks a little bit lighter. I think South Carolina has looked better. I really don't. They're kind of incomplete for me because again, offensively, Lenora Sellers has, he's looked like a freshman or a first-year starter so far. That offense has not really produced a ton of. They've scored a little bit, but that from a down-to-down basis, they haven't been very good, haven't been very explosive or efficient. But defensively, they've certainly looked the part. So that's they're an interesting team. We'll see how they look against LSU. We'll learn more about them. Trying to think of who else is notable. Those were kind of the main ones I wanted to hit on. But yeah,
what do you think?
Virginia Tech. Oh yeah, Virginia Tech stock down so far. The loss to Vanderbilt. That's ugly. You can't, if you're going to be an ACC contender, you can't lose to like Wake Forest when they went 5-7 or whatever last year beat Vanderbilt.
Right.
It's not good, man. That's not very good. And they did. And Marshall, they looked okay against Marshall, but they didn't, dominate the game. And I think offensively, they're still kind of gelling. Virginia stock up,
Yeah,
at least a little bit. Tony Elliott is 2-0. Anthony Calandria, he threw for nearly 400 yards this past week in that win over Wake Forest.
Tony Elliott returning to the Valley.
Yeah. So like
interesting storylines heading into that game, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Miami stock up, but they're not on your schedule, not on your regular season schedule. So I mean, the ACC has
if you get a championship game.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands right now, the ACC feels like a 2-team league.
Yeah,
or maybe three. I'll throw Louisville in there because they've looked good. They were in the they deserve that credit. They were in the ACC championship last year. Until they prove that they're not, I'll keep them in that tier. So like, yeah. And again, you don't play Syracuse, who's looked good.
They've looked good, yep.
Which is nice. I'm not complaining about that. So, yeah, and you don't play Georgia Tech either. So, like, your ACC schedule has worked out really, really well. I mean, right now it feels like the toughest game by a significant margin is that Louisville game. But they they have to come to the Valley.
They do. So. They come to the Valley. So. Yeah, it's looking, the schedule, when you look at it game by game, looks very manageable for the Tigers, right? There's a world where Clemson stands 11-1 at the end of the season, with the singular loss being against Georgia in the season opener. So that's definitely in the cards. I think Clemson going forward, it looks promising, right? Now, can they keep this offense going forward? This offensive production up as we move forward throughout the season? That remains to be seen. But I definitely think this is going to be a different looking offense this year, right? To your point earlier in our last segment, I don't see very many 100-yard passing games for Cade Klubnik this season. So, with that said, Jordan, what has impressed you the most about this team through 2 weeks of the season?
I mean, I think it's going to start. I think most impressive. I mean, I think both lines of scrimmage, I think have impressed me the most. I mean, obviously, it's hard to say the defensive line has impressed me because I mean we felt pretty good about, especially your starting four. Like, we felt good that they could match up go toe to toe with anybody, and they've shown that through 2 weeks. But like your offensive line, we've talked about, just kind of the inconsistencies and the struggles from last year, and how, having all that returning production was great, but we have not really seen them play well very often. And so, I mean, they've been ready to go in both weeks. I mean, say what you want about that Georgia game. I thought they played about as well as you could have asked them to. You could have run block better, but it's hard to. Georgia is just some of that. Sometimes, like, a team is just more talented than you, and that was kind of the case there. But they rose to the occasion, and I didn't feel like they got beat up physically, which is we've seen, Clemson's offensive line get beat up physically and by lesser teams than the number one team in the country. So
absolutely,
offensive line has been extremely impressive. They have not, according to Clemson's grading system, they have not given up a sack through 2 games. So they've given up 2 sacks. The team has given up 2 sacks, but those were credited to the quarterback and not the offensive line. So offensive line, I'll give offensive line the number one, because they were the ones with the most questions. We expected the defensive line to be good. Who else? Tight ends. I've been really pleased with the tight end play. Obviously, Jake Brenningstool has been the big pass catching weapon, but you've seen the depth, and you have some options, some quality options behind him. Josh Sapp, he's gotten out there. I mean, he made a really nice catch on Saturday. Hope to see him more involved, but Austin Pat Henry stock way up. Think he's a guy that has to play more. Fantastic blocker, just gives a extreme effort, and obviously I love his upside as a pass catcher as well. So and Jake, to his credit, as John Sarian says in the chat, his blocking has been a lot better, and that's something we've been trying to get out of him for 3 years. But he's never going to be a great blocker, but you definitely see the effort, and he's being an effective blocker. So I think that's about all you can ask for with a guy of his size and athletic profile. So yeah, tight end room, really happy with that. Who else? I already mentioned the defensive line. I think the corners, the young corners have been hit or miss, but I've been impressed by a couple of guys. And Avion Terrell, we knew was going to be really, really good. And Shelton Lewis was obviously hurt in the first game. He almost got a pick six on Saturday. Like, I think that's kind of still gelling a little bit, and I think that secondary as a whole will grow. RJ Mickens been really, really good at safety. I think he just continues to be quietly one of your best players. He's been like one of the most thankless, he's gotten like the least amount of thanks of about any of your experienced guys. Like, he just continues to be extremely solid on the back end. Really, really effective tackler. Just everything you want in the safety. He's not a high-end NFL talent, but he does his job and he's in the right spot. Way more often than not. So yeah, RJ Mickens, and then of course your young wide receiver room. I think that's got to be there as well. Your freshmen have looked as advertised when they've gotten to play their 2 games. I've been really happy with them. So that's been those are kind of my going through the whole team. Those are the guys that really stood out. Backup running back, I think Jay Haynes and David Ajumame, they flashed a good bit on Saturday. Good to see. Yep. Mainly. And I guess I'm impressed with some of the walk-on play. Between Levi Matthews getting that athletic interception off the tip, and Peter Nern recovering a fumble on kick. That was funny. That was good. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, and how could I forget Christopher Vizina? So
absolutely.
I thought he impressed on Saturday.
Yeah, I think all of that, most notably for me, is that offensive line. The transformation of that offensive line to, as of right now, where we are in the season, is much better than I thought it would be. I thought they would improve, obviously. With the hire of Matt Luke, I thought he would get a lot more out of them this season than we got out of them last season. But I did not think it would be this much improved at this point in time in the season. Again, long season ahead, got to stay healthy at that position. But you got to love what you see from the offensive line. I think by far they have won for me, the most impressive thing of the team so far this season is definitely that offensive line. Shifting gears to the most disappointing thing that you've seen from Clemson so far this season. It could be a position group, particular player. You can go anywhere with this, but what has been the most disappointing thing about Clemson so far this season for you through 2 games?
Disappointing. I think the linebacker play has still been kind of.
That's exactly where I was going to go.
It's been hit or miss. I mean, even from your 2 starters, I want to see more. I mean, I thought they cleaned up some stuff on Saturday, but need to develop some consistency there. And obviously, your depth is being tested now. So got to get more quality play out of them. And obviously, a couple of your older receivers that we've talked about, I think they corrected some of their mistakes on Saturday, but obviously it's hard to get that first game against Georgia out of your mind. I can't say I've been disappointed with anything. And again, it's through 2 games, so still kind of new. I've been disappointed. This isn't like a particular position group, but I've been disappointed with with third down defense through 2 weeks. Like I feel like they, especially on third and long, like you've given up way more third and longs than you should.
Yeah, I mean, I think
third and 14, third and 15.
Like a 3rd and 17 against Georgia. I mean,
yeah,
come on, man. Like, I know it's Georgia, but like you can't allow them to convert that.
Yeah,
you just can't. You get killed if you can't get off the field at 3rd and 17 or 3rd and 15. Like, what are we doing? But I was going to go exactly where you went, and I'm not saying our linebackers have been, horrible or bad this season or anything like that. But if I'm being honest, they've been disappointing. Because of the level that I thought they would be playing at this season, because of who we have returning, right? I just expected a little bit more, and maybe we get that as the season goes on. But through 2 games, I think the linebackers have been a little disappointing. I think they could play better, specifically in that Georgia game. We talked about it, the bad angles that they took, the missed tackles, just the getting lost in coverage sometimes. And, to your point, they did clean it up against App State a bit. They didn't get to play very much, so there is that. But I want to see a little bit more consistency, especially out of a linebacker group that's as seasoned as those 2 guys are, right? You just expect a certain level of consistency, and we just haven't gotten it to this point this season. Again, a lot of games left to play, a lot of season ahead, and they may be the strength of the defense by season's end. They certainly have the talent and the capability to do that. But through 2 games, they've been a bit disappointing for me.
Yeah.
No, we're not questioning Wes Goodwin, Jay. We're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like it's his position group. So, I mean, ultimately it's on him to get more out of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not like, hey, just fix it.
Yeah, just fix it.
That's ultimately what it's going to be. But yeah, they got to be better. Again, you're playing Georgia. You're going to get exposed a little bit. They're just it's the number 1 team in the country. They have weapons, but I just think some of the little stuff, some like being physical, attacking, and as far as your tackles are concerned, it felt like they've played soft through 2 weeks. It's like they just have not been as like it's like okay if you make the wrong read, like okay, you can coach that, you can fix that, but I can't make you I can't make you play with the physicality necessary at that position. And, you just too many missed tackles and just too many being kind of tentative at the point of attack. And you just, that has to be better. So,
yeah, absolutely. Certainly has to be better. And you expect more out of a position group that has that many snaps under their belt and that much experience. So, hopefully they get it together as the year goes on and becomes far more consistent and more closer to the version of the linebacker group that we thought they would be. I mean, it's been said that they could be one of the best linebacker groups in the country this year. They have not looked anything close to that so far this season. So they got to get it together and get there, because this defense will need them as the season goes forward. All right, one more thing before we turn the page from this particular segment, Jordan. What worries you going forward for these Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, worries. Man, well, I've already talked about, your linebackers already aren't playing well, and the depth is getting tested. So, that's a slight concern. I think, we still have not seen anybody truly emerge, in the depth of that defensive end room. Like we've seen a bunch of guys in the defensive tackle room, make plays. Obviously, between DeMonte Capehart, Peyton Page. We've made plays. Trey Williams, Vic Burley, Stephylon Green. Like, you have dudes there, but like we defensive end kind of feels like we still are kind of waiting for somebody to truly flash. We haven't really seen much from Jaheim Lawson. Cade Denhoff has been solid in the run game, but hasn't really been an really effective pass rusher. And obviously the guys behind him have hardly seen the field. I mean, AJ Hoffler, again, I'm going to keep banging the drum for him to get more snaps, but I'm not there in practice every day, so I don't know what he is and isn't doing. But you need to see some depth emerge there, and that's especially with Peter Woods, potentially being out. Got to have somebody there, because teams are gonna, especially with the Georgia tape, they've seen you get attacked on the edge, and that's going to be what a lot of teams are going to exploit, or are going to attempt to exploit moving forward. So you got to have quality play there. And of course, that also bleeds into the linebacker play, but it all goes hand in hand.
Yes, absolutely. What worries me going forward for Clemson, I think, is one, kind of similar to what you were talking about, the lack of QB pressure, right? The lack of getting home with the pass rush. TJ Parker was kind of that dude last year, hasn't really made that level of impact so far this season. So we need a guy that can go out there and really pin their ears back and rush the quarterback when we need it, right? I don't think we're getting as much pressure as we're typically used to seeing for a Clemson defense, and we're certainly not getting home very often. So I think that worries me going forward. The other thing that worries me is the depth of this team. I think we are thinner than we would like to admit at several position groups. And that worries me going forward, just because of the attrition of college football and injuries. And we've already seen it through 2 weeks of the season, losing a huge rotational piece at the linebacker position and Kobe McLeod. We're thin at cornerback, at least as far as proven guys
that you could trust to go out there and play right now.
You can truly trust to go out there and play like.
I mean, you saw Brandon Strozier and Corin Gibson get out there, and they had some Tavoy Fegan.
It was rough at times.
Kind of yeah.
So definitely there. You already mentioned the defensive end position. You got Peter Woods already banged up. We're thin there. We need guys to start stepping up. Cade Denhoff, that dude's got to step up, man. And I know he's been playing a lot, but like we got to feel his presence out there, right? Hoffler, Jaheim Lawson, like pass rush specialist, right? Like we need to see it.
Yeah. Because I mean, listen, the Georgia game, the snaps I saw Jaheim Lawson, he was a non-fat, like he was getting neutralized. It was not good. So I'm like, he's already undersized. So like, I mean, he's not going to offer you a ton of help in the run game. So like, if he's not winning, if he's not winning in pass rush situations, then why? I mean, like I like him a lot, but like, you can't just keep trotting him out there and he's not giving you anything because. Right. So
that's that's just a few things. The ability to consistently rush the passer is a worry for me. The depth at cornerback is a worry for me. And I could say the same about the offensive line. As impressed as I've been about the offensive line, I don't trust the depth.
I certainly don't trust the depth.
Now. I know they say they got 8 dudes that can play. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Not like those first 5 dudes. They don't.
Maybe like Sadler when he's on point. Like okay,
yes.
okay, maybe you have a sixth guy, but I don't trust it. Like if injuries pile up, yeah.
I think it really stops there.
Yeah.
That group has got to stay healthy. So those are just kind of my worries going forward. But we'll see how it plays out. You know, it's a long season. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be peaks and valleys. Injuries are a part of the game, and we just hope that we can weather the storm, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, last and I did want to point this out because I meant to get to him, but I completely forgot. DJ mentions Khalil Barnes. Yeah, he's underwhelmed too.
Yeah,
he's got to be better. He was totally lost in he had a rough Georgia game. I mean, he didn't play a ton on Saturday. Beyond the first quarter. So
let's not have that sophomore slump.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot to clean up. So definitely, I mean, hey, listen, these players aren't even ones that are freshman All-Americans, but yeah, he's got to fix it. He's got to be better because he has not been as effective as he was last year by any means.
Yeah, absolutely. We got 48 people right now in the live chat. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. We got one more segment before we turn it over to the comment section. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. We also have the super chat feature available. Keep in mind, Wednesday, 8 p.m. is the new time slot for the show from now going forward. Don't forget to join us for our post-game live videos immediately following every single Clemson game. And also, don't forget to utilize the Amazon link. In the description of this video below is the Amazon link. Anytime you shop on Amazon for whatever you're purchasing, just go ahead and paste that Amazon link in there, and the Voice of College Football gets a little bit of a kickback, and you get to purchase the stuff you were already going to purchase anyway. So help us out in that way, and it'll be greatly appreciated. Let's get into a fan favorite, our last segment of the night, BYOG or sell, Jordan. BYOG or sell. Comment section, help us out with this. Go ahead and get some BYOG or sells in the comment section while me and Jordan do ours, and we may get to a couple of yours as well before we officially turn the show over to the comment section. Jordan, I'll go ahead and start with an easy one tonight on BYOG or sell. Clemson's explosiveness is here to stay. The downfield passing game, the explosive plays on offense are here to stay. You buying or selling?
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, but because I mean, yeah, I think BYOG as far as I think this team will have. There's definitely more explosive plays to come for this offense, but will it be to the degree that we feel like they've officially taken that step into this is just a really, really good offense.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of, but I'll say BYOG because I mean, obviously the trend is there from, you feel a lot better. You feel as good about the personnel you have offensively that you've had in a long time, and obviously they finally showed that they could do it on Saturday. So BYOG for now.
All right, I agree. BYOG. I think the explosiveness has officially returned to stay for this offense, but pump the brakes on what you saw against App State. That will not be the standard going forward.
Absolutely. Okay. BYOG or sell?
Okay.
Man. David Ajumame makes enough strides that they decide they don't want to redshirt him. Iziomume. I've heard a bunch of different pronunciations. I need to go back and read the pronunciation guide. But
Yeah, I don't know how to say it. I've always said Izamame, but I
think you might be closer there.
I think that's wrong. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
right.
you
or
might
not.
be. That sounds closer because I feel like I've heard that.
But you know, again, I could be wrong. I'm gonna sell.
Okay.
That's a tough decision, but I'm gonna sell. I think Jay Haynes has shown enough thus far to solidify as kind of that RB2 change of pace guy for Phil Maffa. So I'm going to go sell. I think they're going to try to hold him to the 4 games because now the new rule of the postseason doesn't count. So ACC game and beyond, he could play, and that doesn't count. Only the regular season counts for the 4 games. So I think they'll hold him.
I'm with you. I'm a sell. Definitely with you there. But hey, he showed some flashes on Saturday, so that was good to see.
To Isaac's point, as long as Maffa stays healthy, yes.
Yeah,
that goes without saying.
This is assuming like health and of the running back room.
Assuming everybody stays healthy. If Maffa goes down, all bets are off, man. It's all hands on deck at that point. Ain't nobody redshirting in the running back room then. But yeah, I'll go ahead and sell on that. All right. Let's see. BYOG or sell. Bryant Wesco will be Clemson's leading receiver come season end.
Well, I mean, oh,
That's a tough one.
You know what? BYOG. But
yeah.
I don't feel good about that, but I'm going to say BYOG because he's obviously in the App State game, he just certainly got more downfield play opportunities than Antonio Williams.
Yeah.
But Antonio Williams has been your consistent guy. He's shown up in both games you've played. So it's I think it's going to be tight between them because Bryant Wesco's averaging 35 yards a catch. He's leading the team in receiving yards right now. Yeah. So it's and that's through he has 4 catches for 130 yards. That's or 140. It's something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
35, 34 yards per catch. That's crazy.
Yeah, as crazy as his day was on Saturday, he only had 3 catches.
Yeah.
for 130 yards. So, so you're buying. I'm going to sell. But with that said, I agree with you. This race will go down to the wire, and I think it's between Bryant Wesco and Antonio Williams. And it's going to be fun to watch, I think, on who kind of pulls ahead from week to week, because I truly do think it'll be a week-to-week thing with those 2 guys and how explosive they both can be. So I'm going to stick with Antonio Williams just because I hyped him up so much coming into the season, and I still believe he's about to have a very special year. But, man, that Brian Wesco is a dude. So it could really go either way.
I am with you. Okay. BYOG or sell? Ooh. Man, this one's tough. Sherrod Coble ends up being Sherrod Koval is going to be your second starter at safety sooner rather than later.
Bye.
Okay.
Don't even got to think about it. I believe in that dude.
Yeah.
I think he's special. I'm buying 100% on Sherrod Koval. I thought he was really good before he got hurt. So I'm excited to see what kind of season he puts together. I'm BYOG on that. I'll buy.
I am going to say BYOG as well. I'm with you. I think he showed a lot on Saturday and a lot he flashed definitely on my initial watch, but I was kind of in the clouds from the offensive explosion. I didn't really get a chance to watch him that closely, but in the second, he was flying around.
Man.
He looked so comfortable.
He looks instinctual out there.
Yeah.
It looks like it comes easy to him.
Yeah, he gives a different juice than anybody else. I think Ricardo Jones is going to eventually be that, but Sherrod Koval obviously has been in the system.
Mm-hmm.
He just looks so comfortable back there.
Which is no surprise. I mean, he flashed as a true freshman, so I'm excited to see the season he put together. He's going to put together. All right, we got a couple BYOG or sales from the comment section, so let's hit them up real quick before we transition to just answering and responding to comments and questions. John Sarian gets in first with his own BYOG or sell, a repeat based on new evidence, according to John Sarian. BYOG or sell, Clemson will not face DJU in Doak.
That's been so tough. I think we had a BYOG or sell about this before the year.
We did.
We wondered about that. Yeah. And I think we said we sold on it because obviously I thought DJ would look decent enough before that game to where it wouldn't be a realistic possibility that he gets benched.
I didn't think DJ would be anything that he wasn't at Clemson or Oregon State. I didn't think he'd be anything special. All the people saying that Mike Norvell was suddenly going to turn DJ into this amazing quarterback, I never bought into that. But I didn't think he'd be this bad.
Yeah.
That Boston College game was awful.
Yeah.
And to be fair, his receivers were also equally as awful in that game.
That tight end.
All the passes that he happened to get to them, which weren't many, they dropped them, especially that tight end. That tight end didn't do him any favors in that game. So, man, that Florida State offense is just – it's bad. It's struggling. This is a tough one for me. Who's their backup?
Brock Glenn, the guy that played in the Orange Bowl.
I'm going to sell still. Reluctantly, because I think there's a real possibility that DJ gets benched here. If he has another outing like he did against Boston College, they might just pull him for Brock Glenn. But
wait, so are you? Because he said John said Clemson will not face DJU and Doak. So if you're selling, that means you think we will play him.
Yeah, I think we will. I don't know why. I don't know why I think that. But I'm going to sell, and I'm going to say we'll face DJU in Doak Campbell Stadium. I have no reason to think that is true. That's just what I'm going with for now.
Yeah, I'm going to sell slightly as well, just because if last week wasn't, they're starting him again. If last week wasn't enough to bench him, I don't think he's going to play as poorly against Memphis that he did against Boston College. Because I just,
if they lose to Memphis,
all bets are off at that point. But
I don't think that happens though.
Me neither.
I know there's a lot of talk out there, and there's probably some people maybe even picking that. I don't know that anybody's putting money on it, but there's probably some people picking that. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he'll play that bad.
Yeah, that'll buy him some time.
That's the whole problem with DJ though, right? is he'll have a game like Boston College, and then he'll come out here and have flashes of greatness, and you're like, see?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
He's turned the corner. He's there. He's done it.
But he hasn't. Just super inconsistent.
Been what he is.
Nothing against him. Don't dislike DJ. I wish him all the best. As long as he's not playing Clemson, I wish that he has great success. But he's just a super inconsistent quarterback whose game just has not translated to the NFL. Or to the NFL, to college, excuse me. So, yeah, we're both selling on that. We think we'll still face DJ just because, clearly they don't believe in Brock Glenn either. They would have brought him in. Why didn't they? If they believed in Brock Glenn, why didn't they bring him in that Boston College game? I don't think they believe in him either. Clearly Mike Norvell doesn't have that much faith in the backup when your starter's playing that bad. He didn't even bring him in for a change of pace or nothing. Just
nope.
Stuck with DJ throughout the whole game. So, I think that has to say something about how Mike Norvell feels about the backup as well, which is why I'm still in the sell camp here. But I don't feel great about it. He could definitely be benched by the time, the Clemson game rolls around, depending on what happens.
Yeah.
All right. We got another one in here from Jay. BYOG or sell. Peter Woods stays at defensive end for the rest of the season.
Well, at this point, I'm BYOG because we have not seen enough from the guys behind him, and I'm just waiting, and we don't even have an inkling that somebody might be emerging right now. So BYOG for now. He's what you got as far as a high-level playmaker out there. And TJ's got to play better as well, but there's certainly behind them that you don't really have anybody that's shown anything. So, yeah, BYOG.
Isaac Smith said, my BYOG or sell about Randall running out first last week was wild. I'm really surprised our coaches benched him. I'm not.
They were a man. Dabo was a man of his word. That's what I said, if he's a man of his word, like that's you go and you send a message.
That's right. You have to. It's a merit-based game. Football is the greatest meritocracy, right? If you're not producing, then you don't play. And if you don't hold true to that as a coach, then what are we doing? So I don't think the offensive staff or Dabo had a choice. You had to give another receiver an opportunity because that Georgia game was bad. BYOG or sell. Clemson pulls their starters by the fourth quarter in the NC State game.
Oh, by the fourth.
Ooh. That means we're up pretty significantly.
Yeah. That spread is what? I think it's up to 10.5. I think Clemson is a 10.5 point favorite on at least on some books right now.
I think right now it is. I'll check it real quick.
It might not. The lines might not be depending on where you look, but I know I've seen it on maybe FanDuel or something that is like minus 10.5 or something like that. But
on ESPN, it's a 7.5.
Okay.
Point line.
All right. I don't think they update their lines until like the week of. But regardless, I'm gonna sell for now. I do think you'll get a spirited effort from NC State. Because again, this is their biggest game of the season now, especially since after the flat performance they had against Tennessee. But again, I also don't think they're nearly as good as they were last year. So
I don't think their additions through the transfer portal worked out very well for them. So I'm going to BYOG on this. I do not think North Carolina State is a good team this year. I think they went out to the portal and they swung and missed. It's just not working. And I don't really know what they could do. I mean, outside of Concepcion, I don't think they have anything.
I mean, I don't even think it's necessarily the weapons that are the problem. I think Grayson McCall is just not very good at football.
Super
when
inaccurate.
he's not in the triple option.
He's super inaccurate.
Yeah, and that offensive line is struggling to protect right now too. So, I mean, I think because honestly, I think their receivers are one of the more. I mean, Concepcion's really good, but Noah Rogers was a 5-star. From Ohio State. They still have Dakari Collins. He's made a couple of plays this season. Like, it's not like their tight end is really good. Jolly, Jolly, he's good. They have some weapons now, but it's not looked. I mean, it hasn't really looked good through 2 weeks. So, and I think that's because I don't think they have a very good quarterback. Or at least he has not played very good. So, yeah,
I'm gonna buy.
I'm very close to buying, but I'm gonna say reserves. I'm a sell for, but I feel like I might feel differently next week.
It's a possibility. This is a week to week thing, right? All right, Hustler Inc.'s in here. BYOG or sell. Troy Stellato will have a breakout game, 100+ yards. I'm gonna sell.
He hasn't gotten enough opportunity. But and what sucks is he could have had a big. I mean, he could have had that big play Saturday, and the one that Cade.
Did you see him? He was wide
open, and he saw. And on I watched Aaron Murray's breakdown of Cade's film, and you especially in the wide shot, you could see it.
Yeah.
You could see Troy put his hand up, his hands on his helmet when the ball wasn't coming to him, and I was like, yeah, well, I feel you.
I mean,
it worked out, but
that was a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, it ended up being a touchdown anyway, but
I wonder. I'm saying this in jest, but it's like Cade must hate Troy because there must be some beef there because last year Troy was the one taking the biggest hits. It seemed like he got the most hospital balls, and then
he did get some his hospital balls.
Yeah, and then this year it's like he only hits him when the receiver when the DB is right there, or he puts him in a position to get laid out, or he doesn't hit him when he's wide open. It's sad a little bit, kind of funny, but yeah, I want to see Troy get more opportunities because
so do I. And it seems to your point last year, it seemed like Cade never threw him the ball when he was open with his arm up down the field, and only threw him those hospital balls. Last year, and this year he just hasn't gotten very many opportunities this year. Yeah. So,
and when he has, he didn't get the ball.
He didn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, how many targets does he have? Maybe 2 or 3 this year?
Yeah. I know he had a couple on Saturday. Maybe he had maybe 2 catches against Georgia.
Yeah.
I think those were his only targets.
Maybe it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But not very many. He hasn't had very much opportunity. So I'm going to sell, just because of how the season's gone so far.
He might not have made a catch against Georgia because I think he only has. Now I think about it, I feel like he only has 23 yards on the year.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
All right,
hopefully that changes, and then hopefully in the film room, when they go over that play. Troy gives him stares daggers into Cade's skull or something.
What's up, bro? We got a follow-up on the Troy Stellato one. So BYOG or sell, Troy Stellato will have a meltdown or public outburst, on the coaches / Cade this season. I'm selling.
I'm selling because Troy's not that kind of guy, but he's very even keel, he's not a guy that's super Like, so I'm not, but you can see the frustration, like when he does, like, but, but he's not gonna take it out on his
but
teammates.
ever making that frustration public, I don't think that happens.
Although if he keeps getting ignored in like what we saw on Saturday, I don't know. I might not blame him if he snaps. I'd be mad too. It's like I say, all right, bro. Well, one time here or there, it happens. You're not perfect, but bro, like yeah. So I don't know, but I'll sell for it because I think he'll get more opportunities. I do think he'll get more opportunities.
All right, one or two more BYOG or sells, and then we're going to move on to questions and comments. BYOG or sell? Clemson going 11-1.
For now, BYOG. I don't even. No, you know what? I'm selling. I do think you're going to trip up. I still feel like this. Even though the schedule looks less daunting, I think that there's just the possibility of you tripping up is still, because this team's we've only seen one really good performance, just not ready to conclude and get, because I felt like this team was a 10-win team. That's kind of where I've been, and so even though we have not seen the consistency yet, so I'm selling.
I'm selling as well. Yep. Oh, we got to go in here. Isaac Smith, BYOG or sell? Clemson's offense will go on to be the best in the ACC by season's end.
Ooh, that one's tough. The best. I mean, Miami obviously is putting up really good numbers right now with Cam Ward. The number one, I'll sell, just because Miami will never have a game where they get held to 188 yards of offense and 3 points, because they just don't play a team of that caliber. That very well could be the difference. So I'm a sell, but I do think if you're top 3 or 4, you should feel pretty good. Again, they can get there. They could be first, but if Miami, their schedule is very, very light. Like, they don't really have any, and the Virginia Tech game that they have in like several weeks is not as daunting as it was. Like, they might be they might coast to the ACC championship potentially. It's still Miami, and they still have to prove it. And maybe they have a hiccup here or there, but again, I don't think they're going to have a performance where they're held like well below their average, like Clemson was in their first game. So, and that just makes it hard for me to say number one. They make it to number one.
Yeah, I'm going to sell as well. I just need to see. I need to see it again from Clemson's offense, right? I need to see more. They got to build consistency. It was a great performance. Record-setting performance, amazing to watch, but at the end of the day, it was one game.
Yep.
And we got to see that consistency throughout the season. So with how Miami's offense has looked early this season, I'm going to sell. Reluctantly, because I don't even like saying that, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
In our best days, we were number one in the ACC consistently. So,
all right, we'll do one last one, and then we're moving on to the comment section. All right, BYOG or sell? Syracuse will be one of the teams in the ACC championship game.
So they're playing well right now, but again, I don't know if year one of Fran Brown, they're immune to the Syracuse trend of starting out really well, and then the depth starts to get tested and they completely fall off the.
All right, guys, that time has come. We are at the end of the show. We have finally made it through all of our planned portions and our topics. We've done our BYOG. Now we are going to turn it over to you guys in the comment sections for a few comments and questions. Please get your comments in now if you want to ensure that your comment is read. We don't have a lot of time left in the show, so if you want to ensure that your comment is read and responded to on the show, please go ahead and hit that super chat feature. Support what me and Jordan do here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel, and more specifically, the All In Show. Jordan, without further ado, let's turn it over to the comment section.
Let's do it.
What's the people talking about today?
Yeah, I know we start some John Sarian earlier in the show on Cole Turner. He says Cole Turner is redeemed for me. Randall not quite yet. I don't know if either one of them is completely is redeemed, but I think they certainly showed that they can make plays. Maybe not like to the degree that maybe an Antonio Williams or a Bryant Wesco gives you, but they do have some utility in this offense, and when they're lining up correctly and tracking the football and all that. So we'll see. Again, they both had a really bad game, and they both had a okay game. So we'll see kind of where their true median performance lies, because maybe it's neither of them, and maybe they are actually pretty good, or maybe they're just or maybe this past Saturday was an up performance for them, and they're consistently going to give you more bad plays than not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not all the way back with either two of those. I think they had a respectable performance last week, but again, same thing what I say about the offense, you got to build consistency, right? And that first game for me was just really, really bad.
Yeah.
So we'll see going forward. They got to prove it over several games.
Jay says, if you really watch the Georgia game, Cade improved even in a 34-3 loss. Not perfect, but more than capable to win it. Yeah, I mean, and we talked about that after the game. I mean, yeah. Cade, there was very clearly like improvements from Cade as far as staying in the pocket, checking down, throwing the ball away. Like he didn't make any crazy what are you doing throws. Like
right.
The one interception he threw, it was the end. It was the game was out of reach, and he was just trying to, you're trying to make a play. It wasn't like just a completely missed read or anything like that. He still has some growth to do. Because I mean, even in the App State game, there are some throws where you would have liked to been sooner. Like the play where he avoided that sack on the right, Antonio Williams was open at the top of that comeback route. Like he didn't, and Cade just didn't hit him, and so then then he avoided the sack and then threw it, but he didn't even have to do all that. So he still has lapses on occasion. Some throws you'd like to be sooner, a little a split second sooner here or there. But he's very clearly seeing the field a lot better than he was last year, and is more comfortable and confident, within the structure of the play as well. Just trusting his offensive line, being accurate with the football, and being in delivering the ball more timely than he was last year. So yeah, I think he has certainly made a lot of strides. John says Moffa clocked in at 20.6 per Real Analytics. Yeah, that's a great follow. Bryant Wesco had the fastest play of the weekend across college football. He clocked in on that first touchdown run. He clocked in at 21.9 miles per hour, I believe.
Yeah, 21.9. Yeah,
pretty crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous, man.
So yeah. Yeah, Moppa was moving, man. I think you saw that first touchdown run against Notre Dame last year. Like you saw kind of a little bit of the speed, but even that 83-yard touchdown run on Saturday, it was like he was moving even better than that Like he was like,
Yeah.
you could see the separation being created from the DBs. Like it was like when the way he was moving, I was like, oh, he's gone. Nobody's touching him.
Yeah.
And
no, it wasn't even close. Nobody was going to touch him.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to see a back that is his size be able to move like that. That's crazy. That's special when you got a guy like that.
Absolutely.
Definitely some underrated wheels on Maffa.
Mm-hmm. Isaac Smith says, "Yeah, we can't afford too many injuries to our starters on the." Yeah, I mean, your depth is you still have a lot of young pieces and a lot of inexperience there. So, at a lot of other than defensive tackle, you don't really want to lose anybody.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to lose anybody in general, but
no, you don't.
You don't feel like you can stomach a loss in the same way. Obviously,
a lot of the depth is really, really young. So
yep.
that obviously scares you when you're thinking about injuries.
Yeah, and back to Turner Randall, he says still not confident in Turner and Randall. Brown, Wesco, Moore still should be playing over them. Yeah, I'm with you. We agree.
Yep.
Certainly, we should be seeing more of the snaps. Taco Gaming 75 says if Turner's fastest guy on the team, he should be on kickoffs, working him in with I think he means jet sweeps or touch passes. Yeah, I mean, and just creative ways to get him the ball out in space, get him out on the edge. Get bending around the edge where he's not like he can just use his speed. He's not worried about his routes and because he doesn't really get to showcase if he's second guessing himself as a receiver. Like you don't really get a chance to use your speed the way you want. So just getting creative ways to get the ball in the hands of a good athlete. So. And yeah, absolutely. I think kickoff, having him on kickoffs would be nice for sure. I don't like Maffa back there. Dabo's explanation for it had me a little befuddled. I don't particularly care for that.
Do not put Phil Maffa back there. Stop it. Stop doing it. I don't care what your reasoning is. Stop doing it. Like, don't. I hate it.
And I get that, like they require, like at Clemson, like it's kind of a culture, like they require their starters to play at least one, play special teams, but still, kickoff returns. I don't feel like that's the way to do it. John says, I think Saturday helped give the team a real game, not scrimmage, to play in sync and execute plays by design, carry it forward, muscle memory type thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's, because again, like I said, what you saw on Saturday wasn't like anything like outside of it wasn't like Cade making plays out of structure or anything like that. This was just within the general, like the basic flow of the offense that he was making those plays. Like,
would you say he managed the game? I know he got killed last week.
Yeah, he got murdered for saying that. But yeah, I think, game manager doesn't mean you can't put up big numbers. It just means you are not, trying to do any, you're not creating the plays. You're taking what's coming to you. And when the offense is humming, the explosive plays come to you. You don't have to force them or make them happen.
Play within the offense. Don't play hero. What was Cade criticized for last year? Too much hero ball, trying to do too much, hanging on to the ball too long, making poor decisions. So, manage the game, Cade. I'm with you. Do that. Manage the game, play within the system, take the plays as they come, trust your playmakers. Do that. We don't need hero ball, Cade, coming back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's not do that. And if people want to criticize him for his game manager comment, then hey, more power to you. But it's not a negative thing to be a game manager and play within a system.
Yeah. Now, ultimately, I will say, ultimately, you want him to take be able to take that step where he is creating those plays. Well, when you face a team like Georgia, where
100%.
you're not going to just be able to create create plays. Just through the nature of the offense every single drive. Like, sometimes you're going to need on a 3rd and long just for somebody to go out and your quarterback to just make a spectacular play. That's what you got when you won your national championship. That's what you had when you won those national championships. Was you had quarterbacks that could play within the offense. They certainly did that, but then they gave you that extra. I don't know if Cade has that, but you would like that. Hopefully, one day he could get to that. But I don't.
If you believe that he can come any close to what he was in high school, then he definitely has it.
Yeah,
in there somewhere.
He did it. Yeah, Cade certainly did a ton of off script, just what made like wild jaw dropping type plays in high school. So
yeah.
But again, sometimes you get to the college level and you're
it's a little different.
You can't make that next step, which is fine, but it obviously puts a cap on what I think, like, the ultimate success that this team can reach can be. Like, I feel like this is a playoff caliber team. Don't see national championship team right now for sure.
Yeah.
So Tig says my jinx worked last week. I'm 1-1. Yeah. It seems like you found the formula. Keep it up.
Yeah, keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing, Tiggs.
Pick us to lose on Saturday or next Saturday. I think that's what you've been doing.
Tiggs, you're gonna have to go ahead and pick us to lose out.
Yep.
Yeah. So
just pick us to lose every game.
Yeah. Pick us to go 1-11.
Let's see. John says, I have no questions about the front seven. The rest of the D is still a work in process. I have no questions about the front four. I still have some questions about linebacker, just because you haven't gotten the play that you expected from your starters there. But I'm with you. Yeah, your back end of your defense still, they're gonna, it's gonna take some time for them to mesh.
Yep.
Good. Thankfully, you have a good you have a good core of guys. I mean, you have your Avion Terrell and Jaden Lucas. I think he played. Obviously, I think he had a nice game when he didn't play a ton, but he was there. And then obviously RJ Mickens, locking down, that field safety role. He just continues to be very good at that. So. Yeah, you're gonna need some guys to step up behind them and around them. And you got to, again, and we talked about Khalil Barnes. He's got to play better at nickel too. So, JS, how high are we on the Fire Grisham meter this week? Well, I was not on the Fire. Again, we don't really call for, assistant coaches' jobs, on here really. But certainly it didn't inspire confidence. Last Saturday didn't inspire confidence. But
if I was Grisham, I'd feel much better this week.
Certainly if I was Grisham, I'd feel really good.
I feel pretty good this week.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can keep it going forward.
Brandon asks, how likely do you think Stellato enters the transfer portal? I think it's like 75% right. Well, we don't like speculating on guys hitting the portal. And I have not heard any sort of indication like that's going to happen or that's something. I think Troy is going to get more opportunities moving forward, but especially when you look at the film. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it's too early to assume that, he's thinking transfer portal. Troy doesn't strike me as a guy that's just, jump straight to the transfer portal, right? If that was the case, he would have been gone.
Yeah, especially with what this team still has left on to play for. So,
if we look at seasons in and his production or his opportunities look similar to they've looked in the past 2 games, then maybe there's something a little bit more to discuss there, because clearly he's going to want opportunities, he's going to want to play, he's going to want to contribute. So, but I think it's still too early to know exactly what his role in this offense is going to be. So I would hope not. But again, in the world of college football that we currently live in, anyone can transfer at the end of the season. Literally, with the right tampering and the right money, nobody on your roster is safe.
Yeah.
And that's just the world of college football we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah, Mahesh says, I remember Troy Stellato clocking in 23.4 miles per hour in high school. Yeah, I mean, man, Troy coming out of high school, I mean,
he's a dude.
There's a reason Ohio State wanted him. I mean, it's just you. Obviously, the injuries have certainly. I think they've definitely hampered him, and I don't know if he has quite that same burst, but I think he still is a very quality receiver when he gets those opportunities. And he showed his ability at times last year. So still rooting for him. Want him to see some opportunities. And obviously it would have been nice if he had that touchdown, because we might be talking about him a little bit differently if if Cade hits him instead of Jake Brenningstool on that fake screen wheel with the Dover over the top. And Troy was wide open. So
yeah. Christian said he's open. Cade just don't look at him.
Yeah, he is open. David asked, Linthicum has taken the center spot. Heard a lot about Howard before the season. Anything going on? Well, Trent Howard has been hurt. He's been a little hampered. So that was the biggest thing. But Ryan Linthicum he had been the front runner for throughout the off season. Seemed very likely it was going to be him. So,
and he's done a really good job.
He's been very good.
You can't really complain about anything, for the most part, that Linthicum's done this season. So looks like the right guy won the job, right? Matt Luke made the right call. He's clearly out there and he's performing well. So you got to roll with him. But Harris Sewell got some snaps in on Saturday. So
yeah, he did.
See.
And I thought I think one of the things that was good is it's like, hey, we didn't have any snapping issues. That was
there. You go. Yeah.
The last time we were breaking in a new center, that was a very big issue.
Right.
So far,
that was a big thing, right? You didn't it wasn't glaring that Ryan Linthicum wasn't in the game anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So
the only rough snap was because was when Chris Vezina fumbled. He took his eyes off. It was a good snap, and Chris Vezina.
Nothing wrong with the snap. He just got a little ahead of himself.
Yeah.
Tried to run the play without the ball.
Yeah,
and that never works out well. Jay says, how confident are you in the kicking / punting game? Not super confident.
I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a 5, probably.
I'm maybe a 5 with you. Maybe a 4.5. I don't know.
Yeah.
Punting has been.
Yeah, and that's who I forgot to mention. Yeah, Aiden Swanson has been slightly disappointing. He hasn't been terrible. I think some people have been saying he's been awful, but I don't think he's been that bad. He's just not been.
He's just short kicks, man.
Yeah.
He's not shanking anything. He's not, doing anything disastrous, but I just want to see him get a little bit more on his kicks, It's just not he's not quite doing enough there.
He's not really flipping the field the way you want.
Right. So. You need especially if you ever get in a game where it's kind of a field position type game, you can't, he's not showing that you can trust him to flip the field for you. He's not showing himself to be a weapon in that sense, at least this season. So, hopefully he'll get a little bit better, a little bit more consistent on longer kicks as the season goes on. But field goal kicking,
You haven't missed one, but
you haven't missed one, but the last one didn't look great.
The last one did not look great.
It hit the crossbar or hit the upright there and bounced in. But I don't know. I'm not super confident on any of the kicking game, honestly. It's definitely still a work in progress for Clemson. That's very clear.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for me.
All right. Well, guys, we are at the 2 hour and 23-minute mark, and it's already 10:30 at night. I got work tomorrow. Jordan's got work tomorrow. I'm sure all of you degenerates have work tomorrow. But thank you so much for coming out, hanging out with me and Jordan for another episode of the All In Show. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Watch all the football you can possibly watch. And we will see you back here next Wednesday at 8 p.m. for another edition of the All In Show, where we'll be breaking down the NC State game and hopefully getting ready for another good performance from our Clemson Tigers.
Absolutely. And again, Wednesday night, new time, 8 p.m. So y'all just kind of put it in your well, make sure you have the notification bell, so that way it doesn't matter when we go live, But this will be the new time going forward for the remainder of the season. Don't anticipate any changes, but if there is, we'll let you know. But yeah, this has been our bye week edition of the All In Show. We'll definitely be back and really dive into NC State next week. So can't wait. And until then, y'all enjoy the football games this week. One thing about the bye week is you get to watch all the games, and you don't really have to stress about your team, whether playing later or having already played, or maybe they don't look good, and then it kind of puts a damper on the rest of the day.
That's right.
So it's gonna be nice to just relax and watch some college football stress free.
100%. Always good to watch college football. Better when the Tigers are playing, but always fun to watch college football. That's going to do it for us tonight. Tune in next week, 8 p.m. for another edition of the All In Show. But until then, as always, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.